All right, travel people. Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Hope everything is great in your world. Thanks for listening today. We are currently in Phu Quoc, Vietnam. It's a small island south of Vietnam and Cambodia. And that is where we are broadcasting today. My name is Matt Javit with Nikki Javit. We're a traveling couple who's been on the road for almost 2 years now. We're documenting our journey on this podcast and at passportjoy.com. We are going to talk about Cambodia today. Our 8 days in Cambodia went to 2 cities, Phnom Penh and Siem Reap, where the majestic Angkor Wat temple is. So we're going to get into the details of that journey and everything that we experienced while we were there, including being held hostage at the airport by an airline. So you want to check that story out, and that's coming up here shortly. And then also, as always, please look at the show notes at passportjoy.com under the podcast tab, where you can find the show notes for this episode and all episodes that detail out all the things that we discuss to make it easier for your travels as you do that. If you're just catching up with this podcast and you're saying, where have these people been? Where are they going? And things like that, go to passportjoy.com. The best way to find out where we've been is to look at the Journey So Far tab. I break down all the countries month by month where we've been on this journey and over the last couple of years, and it'll give you all the links to maybe help you if you're thinking about going to Munich or Greece or Peru, all the places that we've been, Japan, our 6 weeks in Japan. It breaks it all down there and makes it easy for you. Also, if you're not aware, the World Barbershop Adventures, that's kind of the visual aspect of what we're doing on our travel. It shows me in barber chairs around the world, gives you insight on the crazy things that barbers do around the world, but also it gives you the cultural insight of the things we're experiencing, like sumo wrestling in Japan, Muay Thai fighting in Thailand, and things like that, that we note on the visual part of that on the YouTube channel. Again, World Barbershop Adventures. Please be sure to check that out. It's a lot of fun. If you're looking for a way to support us and you're already shopping Amazon, go to passportjoy.com/Amazon, and that takes you to our store and all of our recommendations when it comes to our travel clothes or electronics, our favorite things we miss from home, our backpack, all the stuff that's in our backpack, and all the books that we love and read. And I even have a little bit of section there on barbering and facial, beard, all the stuff that's going on with my face on there. So again, passportjoy.com/Amazon takes you to our store. And when you buy things through that or through Amazon, then we get a little kickback that helps us do things like this podcast. All right. As always, please subscribe, rate, and review on the tool of your choice. And that really helps us get in front of new listeners. And if you want to sign up for the newsletter at passportjoy.com, I send out weekly highlights on Thursdays of everything we've gone through, some highlights within the travel industry, and things that are coming up for us in the near future that comes out on Thursday. So sign up at passportjoy.com for the newsletter, and you will receive that email with those highlights. All right, let's get into this episode. All right, we're talking about Cambodia today. So we went there after spending a month in Bali, and that was a blast. And for us to go to Cambodia was a new adventure, a new country on our list, and somewhere that we had been looking, especially me, I think more so because that whole Angkor Wat was the mystical Angkor Wat was something that I had been looking forward to and a kind of a bucket list item for me. And the way we timed it was just looking at our schedule and looking at knowing that we're going to be in Southeast Asia, there was a big water festival. It's called Om Touk Water Festival. So I wanted to make sure that we were there for that timing in the Phnom Penh city, which is their capital city. It's about 1.5, 2 million people or so. So we wanted to plan it for us to be there during that time, which this year was November 21st to the 23rd. But also then, so we spent 4 days there in Phnom Penh. And then we went to Siem Reap for another 4 days to take in Angkor Wat and all the other temples that are in Siem Reap over there. So it was a great trip. 8 days is probably not enough, but it was enough to get a good sense of the country and get a sense of everything that was all the activities that were going on there. And we left really in, I guess, appreciating our time in Cambodia and having a better understanding of the history. Because prior to this, we really didn't understand that the Khmer people, it's spelled Khmer, those people had such a massive presence in really the history of the world, because they were this mega power back in, I think it was like a 10th century, or I guess the 10th century, 11th century or so, where they were just super strong in Southeast Asia, and they had this massive power. And then that's why they ended up building up Angkor Wat and all these different things. But so it gave us a chance to understand that a little bit better and to get a sense of these people. But I don't know. I think at a high level, it's very much a scooter tuk-tuk. But yes, there are nice cars there. When we were there, we saw probably the most Lexuses and
Range Rovers, Lexuses, Mercedes-Benz.
yeah, just like super nice cars in the streets. And what we were saying is as we asked people, they were saying that it's a lot of it is Chinese influence and investors coming in and bringing their nice cars with them as they're investing in real estate and whatnot. And there seemed to be growth, just as we've talked about, as we've seen around the world. Seems to be a lot of growth in Phnom Penh in particular. Like I said, again, it's their capital city. So we had a chance to take that in. And then the people were super nice. It was not really like a touristy location. So we stuck out a little bit as travelers because there's not a ton of Westerners that we saw, especially in Phnom Penh when we were there for the water festival, which was really neat because that's essentially, it's the end of their rain, celebrates the end of their rain season and then a new season. So there's fireworks there. There's a massive, there was this, in their downtown area, there was this massive festival of a lot of vendors, just a lot of street vendors, beer, food, all kinds of wide range of food. And this is the first time that I had a chance to eat insects, which is pretty crazy. So I ate crickets and roaches, and there were some other things like these mini frogs and all kinds of different things, a lot of different, these little tiny eggs. But I did go with the insects. I got a whole bag of them. I ate the whole thing. And what's funny is after I had eaten these insects and posted it, I started getting emails from friends saying like, there's this big cricket phase in America now for the proteins of crickets. So maybe this thing's going to pick up a little bit, but they weren't bad. It didn't taste bad. They put this seasoning on the crickets and it makes it not such a bad thing. But like I said, the Phnom Penh, just the downtown area was just lively, and there was people. So people come from all the village towns as well, just like you would celebrate in our cities, maybe like on the 4th of July or some sort of celebration where people come from smaller towns into the bigger cities to celebrate. That's what was going on there. So there was a ton of police enforcement, and then a lot of different people from all these different towns that were taking in maybe the city that they don't get to see a lot. So there was a lot of that. And then very few Western travelers. When I say very few, we probably only saw maybe 10 or 15 Western travelers in this city of about 2 million people in our 4 days. So it seemed to be unique that we were there during that time, which was cool because that makes the experience a little bit more authentic. And then it was neat just to be able to walk around and check all these things out. And people were kind. I on a few occasions, people would come up and talk to us and want to know where we're from and things like that. And there was like games and I don't know, just people taking in their city as we walked around.
Yeah, so this festival that Matt is referring to is quite possibly one of the largest festivals. I just wanted to add that into the mix. Definitely the largest festivals that we have ever been to during our journey this time and in my lifetime thus so far. I'm not sure how many miles this thing stretched, but if you were to talk in city blocks, so I'm a Chicago girl, and I grew up going to like the Taste of Chicago. And we have our own festivals in Indianapolis. You know, you can go to Greek Fest and Italian Fest and German Fest and things like that. And I mean, this thing does not even, like, you cannot put it on a scale to compare it. But I would say if you were to say the Taste of Chicago, I mean, multiply that times 10. And that would be me being conservative. I mean, it is.
You're saying like the
size of like how it takes up the city. So we walked in one day. We walked
it was 9 miles.
9 miles in one day just to walk through around the festival. And it is, like Matt was describing, it's mind blowing. Like they had vendors, but in addition to the vendors selling their things, they had like mini concerts. So they had people set up with these big, huge, elaborate stages, like what you would see at the Taste of Chicago, but their version of that. So
Muay Thai fights as well.
they had outdoor Muay Thai fighting that you could just watch for free. And these concerts were for free in this, big, huge outdoor atmosphere. So I just wanted to throw that in there. And I mean, I'm sure you can go online and look up pictures, but for me, it was like the overwhelming grandiosity of this whole huge event that was put on. It just seemed like to go on forever and ever and ever. And although a lot of it was a lot of repeat, so the same things that you would see, the same things that people are selling, the same foods and stuff like that, a lot of the entertainment was very different. So it was just very neat to see that. And it was millions of people, actually. It was millions. It wasn't thousands. It was millions of people. So they say an estimated 1 million people come in from surrounding cities, so being locals. And then in addition, other parts of areas just to like partake in this thing. So, and then obviously the people that live in Phnom Penh, once they get off work or whatever, but the local shops even were shut down. So one day we were just trying to get some lunch and we went to this cool little farm to table restaurant outside of the city. And well, it's in Phnom Penh, but outside of where the actual festival was going on. And when we walked in, we were just like, hey, we're here. We want some food. And the woman was like, we're open, but we only have one salad, one soup to choose from. I'm sorry, that's just our set menu for today because of the festivals. So in a lot of places, we're completely shut down. So for 3 full days, it was a Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, the city wasn't even really functioning. And these people, which is awesome for them, really use this as kind of like a little mini holiday for themselves. So it's like a national holiday.
Yeah, and the celebrations on the water. So they had these big boats, these long tail boats that would race each other, and so that's kind of the cool thing about it. Is people would go out to the water side and watch these boats race, and then there was fireworks that night and all kinds of massive displays. So it was really neat in that way. And like Nikki said, we walked a great deal, and we always felt safe in the city. It was pretty nice that we felt that safe. In a major city like that, walking around, and even a few times we met up. We met up like a group of like teenagers or early 20-year-olds were like walking with us and having a great time, and it was a lot of fun. And while we're there, I did a World Barbershop Adventures at the Tokyo Barbershop, which was full of Westerners. That was what was weird was we didn't see any Westerners as we were out and about, but in this barbershop, they said that 90 to 95% of the clientele is Westerners, whether they're travelers or locals that live there. And it was obvious when I was in the chair, it was all Westerners, and the barbershop treatment was amazing. Again, that's Tokyo Barbershop. So that episode will be coming out soon. And then I guess the other thing to note was I had a weird situation while I was there. It was one of the first time that I've had. We talked about a situation that happened in India where we were followed for a while, and I had a similar situation. I went out for the day by myself and was walking around the festivities. Again, I'm just taking it in, just checking things out. And it was a great day altogether. And then all of a sudden, this one guy, I think he was either drunk or high, but he just started following me. And it got awkward because he was getting close to me, and he had a jacket on. I couldn't see what was in his hand. And I had this weird sense that he wanted to do harm to me. So I kept getting space from him. And then finally, I just had to grab a local that my gut told me that the guy spoke English, and I was right. And I just said, hey, look, this dude is following me. Can you do something for me? Can you help me out here? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. I'll go get the police. And then so he went off and got the cops, and there was police presence everywhere. And I just continued to gain space from this guy because he was absolutely following me, because he did for quite some time. But it ended up being okay. And I guess the tip there is just go with your gut and understand that, like I said, probably 99.5% of the people there were all about positivity and great things. But this one guy who's either drunk or high or something, he definitely had ill intentions in his eyes, and I felt it, and I went with my gut, and everything ended up being all right. But it was just one of those things that it felt kind of funky. But so after we wrapped up 4 fun, amazing days there, and we stayed in an Airbnb near downtown. It was I want to say like $28 a night. It was this penthouse suite. It was awesome. It had a great workout facility, amazing views, and super cheap and easy to. It's so easy to get transportation there as well, because there's tuk-tuks or scooters outside your door, even taxis. You can just grab them and jump in them real quick. So after wrapping up 4 great days there with the celebrations, we flew out to Siem Reap and stayed at a mini like bed and breakfast type place that again was really nice. It was ran by where was he from? Not France, Belgium.
Yeah.
Belgium? He was Belgium, and he was married to a Cambodian woman, and they ran this awesome little boutique. They've been there for 10 years. It was right outside the heart of Siem Reap. And Siem Reap, just so you know, it's kind of a backpacker's alley, and I can see why. It's super cheap. By the way, Cambodia the dollar goes a long way, and you use U.S. money too. That's what's kind of cool is you use American dollars while you're there. Your dollar can go a really long way there when it comes to like things like alcohol and massages and some of the fun stuff. So it's a backpacker's heaven, and some of the hostels there are really cheap. So you do see in Siem Reap, you do see a lot more travelers than we did in Phnom Penh, because they're obviously there for Angkor Wat, but also it's a place where their money can go a long way. They can get a sense of the Southeast Asia travel. To be honest with you, they party too, because there was a lot of places where they party a lot. But Nick and I, we were not in a place like that. We were in a different place, but we would see some travelers on the streets, some backpackers, and they got some great night markets where you can pick up some cheap T-shirts and souvenirs and things like that. And it's a cool place because there's a lot of good food. We found a couple of good restaurants that we went to, and I don't know, Siem Reap's nice. It's kind of spread out in a way where they've got different pockets of a lot of fun things to see. But obviously during the day, your time spent going out to different temples and checking out Angkor Wat and seeing those things.
So yeah, we went to Angkor Wat, and how we did this was I set up a day trip just for us to get it all done in one day. And you can purchase a ticket, or how you purchase your tickets is they sell them in 1, 2, or 3 day tickets. And we just did the 1 day ticket, which was $37 US. And we had a driver for the day, which was kind of cool. You can obviously hire a driver and have him take you around in a taxi car. Or we did a tuk-tuk, and the weather wasn't super hot. So for me, it didn't bother me like how we were driving around in the weather, but we got very fortunate in the fact that we avoided some rain, because the very next day it was like a torrential downpour. But anyways, we took a tuk-tuk, and our guy just basically drove us from our hotel that we were staying at, our little Airbnb. Like it was kind of like a bed and breakfast, and so I call it a hotel. But from there, which was about, I want to say 7 kilometers from the main Angkor Wat temple from our Airbnb. And then there are several other temples associated with the main Angkor Wat temple that you can go and see. And when you buy that day pass or 2 or 3 day pass, that's included in your basically entrance fee. So every time you go, you have to kind of show your pass. And when you do get your pass, they take your picture, and your picture's on the front of the pass. So like you can't share your pass or sell your pass or whatever. But there's usually like a guard out front of each one of the temples, and they make you show that for basically your entrance. So how we did it was we went to Angkor for the very last temple. And I guess with that, it was because the intention was to see the sunset during our last stop, but it really didn't work out that way, which was fine. But we just kind of started out going to the smaller temples along the way. And yeah, our day was kind of just consumed in just seeing like the ruins and the smaller temples, and kind of just walking through that and taking photos, and then eventually making our way to the huge Angkor temple. I guess the only thing that I can really say is going into it, I was not really expecting anything. I guess the one thing that I thought was that it would be the temples themselves. I didn't think they would be as ruined as they were. Like they're very crumbly, and there was a lot of construction going on in each of the sites. So you'll see when you're there are a lot of machinery around. Like there were like bobcats and cranes, and then they're trying to restore the temples that have fallen down. So like the stones that are fallen down and the ruins, they're trying to rebuild some of that in some of the areas. So there were like, I don't even know the technical construction terms, but like, I don't know, ties and joists and I don't know, like big, huge pieces of metal that were holding things up. And so things are roped off. And when you're taking pictures, for me, it kind of took away from the natural beauty. And I almost wished that it was kind of just left in its natural state to where it fell down. Because when you're taking a picture and something's roped off, and then you have a sign here that says, do not step here, and something pointing like this is a construction site. And then in the midst of all that, you have a wooden beam holding something up, and then you see a bobcat in the background. It almost just looks sort of fake. And I know that, their intentions are good because they're trying to restore it back and make it look beautiful and fix what is broken. But for me, it really did take away from the natural beauty of the temples. But the one thing that I did find very, very strikingly beautiful about the temples were that these huge, huge trees that are just growing out in the middle of, I guess you would call it, the rainforests or jungles of Cambodia, the roots of the trees and the branches of the trees are growing just directly through these stone structures. And so if you can actually get the right angle and massive hordes of people aren't standing in your way, you can actually get some pretty decent pictures. So just to see that, the juxtaposition of the nature intermixed with the stone and the structures, that was pretty cool to see that. So I don't know. I mean, for me, I guess I was expecting something maybe a little bit different. I just didn't expect to see so much construction at each site. And that was just a little bit disappointing for me, but it wasn't like that ruined it for me. It was just not what I was expecting.
Ruined it. Yeah, it's from the 12th century. And like Nikki said, and just so those, we've been talking about Angkor Wat the entire time, but hoping that you know what it is. But just so you don't, if in case you don't, it was originally built in the 12th century as a Hindu temple. It has since transitioned into like a Buddhist temple, but it's one of the largest religious temple sites in the world. So it's massive, and it's basically like a hidden city, or it's a lost city back in the time. But yeah, I agree with everything Nikki just said. There was a lot of angles that were gorgeous. There was travelers. I mean, there were visitors, but not a ton. Angkor Wat itself, there were a lot of people there. But the other sites around the city, there weren't as many people. So you can get some really great angles and really just get some quiet time and just to take it all in and just kind of figure out what you think what these people were doing back in the day, and what do you think each of these little areas, what they were dedicated to. So it was neat in that regard, and there were some great angles for some amazing photos. Even on Angkor Wat itself, we got lucky with some places where people were concentrating in different areas, and we got some epic photos there too. So, and it's not always about the photos; it's about just kind of taking it all in. Now that we've had an opportunity to go to the Taj Mahal and the Golden Temple in India and Machu Picchu and places like that, you start to compare them a little bit, because what's funny is Machu Picchu and Angkor Wat were built around the same time, so they say. So it's interesting to see how similar some of the places are, but yet very different at the same time. I mean, I'll put the YouTube clip. There's this YouTube video that just has me. It's based on math and how they're positioned around the world and how Angkor Wat and Machu Picchu line up. It's pretty neat. It's one of the reasons that I was very excited to go see Angkor Wat and compare it to Machu Picchu and things like that. But it was great. It was a lot of fun, and it was neat to take in. And it's one of those things that you've got to do on your own to really appreciate it. But like Nikki said, the trees growing out through the ruins is a really big deal. And then everything that how they built this city, these leaders back in that day built it to probably to protect themselves, but also to be some sort of religious give back in some capacity. And then it was cool too, because there were these young Buddhist people walking around as well that you could get a photo with, or you could see them in their practice. So that was pretty cool. And then in Siem Reap, so we just took in the town, had a chance to just hang out in Siem Reap, walk around a little bit, got a couple workouts in, and do the night market thing, and meet some of the travelers. And there was also this, I guess they bill it as like a circus Olay, but it's like a carnival show for young people, and it's young talent. It's young local talent that are carnies. What are those people called? Carnies. They do all the flip around stuff, but yeah, that was a pretty cool show because they were damn talented in the fact that they were like dancing, and it's at this circus hall in town, and it's a great way to support them because it's people that are working their way out of tough situations, and then obviously they've worked their tail off to become these performers, and so that was a fun night that we had there, and then that was really it. I mean, we just had a chance to see the town, see what it's for, and take it all in. And then from there, we transitioned and we flew to Vietnam, and we were flying to Ho Chi Minh City, which brought us to a situation. So when we were, and this is a tip that you need to remember and learn from my mistake, but as we were getting our Vietnam visa documentation order, Nikki's middle name is Marie. On the document, I put just the letter M. So during all this process of getting all this out, and by the way, we're doing a 90-day visa. So we're going through a third party, and this is who we were working with. And then they end up sending you visa on arrival, but they send you this letter that has your information lined out. And then on the letter, it had Nikki's middle initial and not her full name. So there we are about to board our flight for Ho Chi Minh City to get out of Cambodia into Vietnam, and Cambodia Air, the airline Cambodia Air, would not let us go to passport control. They would not let us. They were actually like holding us hostage in their country. They would not let us leave. And we were trying to explain to them, like, look, no, this will be fine. Let us board the airplane. I will handle this in Vietnam. And they would not let us leave. And it's a tip to remember that you got to use your full legal name on all your documentation while you're doing airline tickets, visa, anything passport related. You got to use your full name, because we learned the hard way that day with something that was very small. We could have boarded the plane later. Once we got to Vietnam, we went through everything we did. We would have been fine, but Cambodia Air was not going to let us get on this airplane because of situation they had in the past with names. And in the end, what they said was going to happen was we'd get to Vietnam, and then Vietnam would put us back on an airplane and send us back to Cambodia, not letting us in their country because we wouldn't have the proper information, which that's probably happened in the past with other people with more errors than what we had. But in our case, because we were going through a third party, they met us at the gate anyway, and they were walking us in. We were not going to have any errors. And I was trying to explain this to these people at Cambodia Air. They did not want to hear my story. So what we had to do is we missed our flight. We had to reschedule later, which we had to pay for 2 flights. We had to pay for that and a hotel, because at that point we get to Ho Chi Minh City. We were actually sleeping on the floor until we got kicked out of the Ho Chi Minh City airport, which no fault of theirs. So we had to go get a hotel room. So all these things piled up because these people didn't want us to board an airplane, because in the end, their fear was they were going to have to pay for that flight back, which I told them that I would pay for that flight back if I couldn't get my way through Vietnam Air. They did not care. And so they held us there. So all this, in short, is to let you know that make sure you have all your legal name information, full name on all your documentation, because that was the first time that's happened to us. Hopefully it's the last time, because now I'll make sure I do it all properly the next time. But yeah, it was a weird deal. It was kind of funky, and it left a bad taste in our mouth, but it was all towards Cambodia Air. That was it. Everybody else in Cambodia was rather nice to us along the way. But that is it. Cambodia was great. 8 days there was amazing. And it's definitely a place where it has its own authentic feel. It's different than Thailand. It's different than Vietnam, way different than Bali and Indonesia we went to. So it has its own different vibe in Southeast Asia, and a place that you definitely want to put on your list to visit. We had a lot of fun there. It was a good time. All right, let's talk about trustedhousesitters.com. We love this website. It is the website where not only can you find amazing pet sitting and house sitting opportunities around the world, but you can also find trusted, responsible people to watch your pets while you travel the world. So their model is helping pet lovers travel, keeping pets happy at home, sitters stay for free, and owners travel without worry. That is exactly what Nikki and I did as we had an amazing cat sit for 3 weeks in Zurich, Switzerland, a place that we probably couldn't afford to travel to without the help of trusted house sitters. And we had a chance to stay in an amazing 2-bed, 2-bath house just outside of Zurich, and had a chance to have a ton of space, very comfortable, relaxing stay. Got a chance to understand Switzerland, go on amazing treks, see the city, and watch 2 sweet little cats in the process. So it gave us a chance to connect with cats, hang out, see animals, and then also travel like we love to travel. And at home, as you might know, Nikki and I, we had 2 dogs for a very long time, 15 years, and we'd always have to pay people to watch our pets at home. Where this now gives you the option to have people that love to travel come to your home, watch the pets, take care of your house while you're gone doing your own travel, and you don't have to pay them per se. They can just watch your house. That's the benefit they're getting in watching your pets, is to have a free place to stay. So again, trustedhousesitters.com. We love it. You can find out, you can use our free code to get a discount at passportjoy.com/pet. That's PET. Again, passportjoy.com/pet. Or go to episode 25 of our podcast to hear our story, our detailed story. It's about a half an hour podcast on why we loved it so much and all the details we walk through on how to use the website, how to take advantage of all the services they're providing, how to build your profile, and all those things. And I think that you'll really see the value in it. It's a great way to travel, especially if you're trying to do long-term travel. It is something that Nikki and I were very happy that we found, and it's something we're going to leverage a lot in the future. And that is it for this episode. Thanks so much again for listening. Please be sure to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. This helps us get in front of new travel listeners that are out there. Please also rate and review when you get a chance. Check out the show notes for this episode and all episodes on the podcast tab at passportjoy.com. And while you're there, sign up for the newsletter. I send out the newsletter every Thursday. Gives us highlights on the things we're doing and all the stuff that we're going through. And while you're at the website, also check out all the blog posts, travel tips and tools. Our social media links are there. And as always, World Barbershop Adventures on YouTube. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm trying to grow this, and that's a great way to help me out. But subscribe there, and you'll get to see all the videos and also the other videos we're dropping along as we go, from scooter footage through different towns and just cool little videos that I put on the YouTube page that people seem to be liking. All right, we'll be back next week for a new episode. Until then, safe travels wherever you might be heading next. Enjoy the journey.
Bum